Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve. Another behind the scenes here for you. What I thought I would do in this one is I wanted to consolidate some of these big meta ideas that were these meta theories that we're talking about all the time into 5 revolutions that are happening right now that we're seeing that are all coming together to create a new conservative age. And so some of these will be new to some of you, some of these will be old hat, but it's a nice frame to be able to better interpret all the events and the crazy things that are happening as we speak in this world. So 5 revolutions forging a new conservative age. So the very first one, I think kind of the big picture one, the meta one that we need to keep our eyes on, is something called re-territorialization. I know a lot of you know this, but re-territorialization is replacing globalization. So re-territorialization basically refers to the various ways in which political control is returning back to local populations. So globalism by its nature actually deterritorializes. It disembeds and dislocates political power away from the local and centralizes it, recalibrates it, centralizes it into the hands of very few. So you could think of, the bullies in Brussels in the European Union, or the demons in Davos, right, or the dolts in DC. Scholars are in wide agreement that globalist, centralizing, deterritorializing world is largely unraveling. And it's unraveling for a number of reasons. For me, there's really bottom line too. There's a theoretical, philosophical reason why it's unraveling, and then a very practical reason. Philosophically, the heart of globalism is what's called modernity. That's the movement in the 18th century that enthroned scientific rationalism as a one-size-fits-all way of understanding the world. And all basically globalism is this notion that this scientific rationality can give us a one-size-fits-all political and economic system that can be superimposed upon all people's times and places. What Francois Lyotard, the French sociologist, uncovered in, I think it was in 1979 in his book, The Postmodern Condition, what he uncovered as early as 1979 is that Western populations no longer believed that. They no longer had confidence in this notion that scientific rationalism provided a one-size-fits-all understanding of reality, and therefore no longer believed that scientific rationalism provided a one-size-fits-all political and economic system to be superimposed to civilize the nations, as it were. So that's the first thing that happened, is that the very theoretical foundations of modernity rotted out. And again, you could push that even further. Why did that happen? Well, you don't have, practically from that vantage point, disillusionment from 2 world wars and insanity and all the lies surrounding Vietnam. You could look at recessions and depressions and the like. People just recognized that scientific rationalism was giving us a system that was every bit as flawed and every bit subject to violence and decay as any other system out there. So that's one. Another one is that modernity is actually rooted in doubt and skepticism. We've talked about this a lot. The scientific method, to its credit, always begins with doubt. How do I know what's going to happen when I let go of my glasses? When then I form a hypothesis that in fact says when I let go of my glasses, it's going to fall to the ground. And then I subject that hypothesis to a number of testing, and then I either verify or falsify that hypothesis, and the doubt in one way, shape, or form is dispelled. I know knowledge has arrived. And the problem, however, is when you reformulate your whole orientation to life around doubt and skepticism, you don't have to be a genius to figure out that the very worldview that's rooted in that doubt, namely scientific rationalism, is going to itself at some point be doubted. Doubt is going to end up eating up the progeny eats its own progenitor, as it were. So I think I think inevitably modernity gave rise to wokeness, which basically doubts the whole of the modernist system as just basically racist colonialism, that kind of thing. So that would be the big theoretical reason why we are re-territorializing, why globalism is breaking up. And then there's a practical reason, and that is even though modernity has died in the hearts and minds of most Westerners, that hasn't stopped our Western elites from trying to continue to export modernity in the form of globalization, in the form of a one-size-fits-all political and economic system. But you don't have to be a genius to figure out that if we've rejected the roots of modernity, if those have rotted out, then eventually the fruits of modernity are going to wither away as well. And that's what's happening in this massive backlash of populations around the world pushing back against globalization, and that backlash is manifesting itself in what's scholars call post-security politics, where more and more populations want to re-secure their borders, re-secure their economy, and re-secure their culture and against the anti-cultural processes, anti-border processes, anti-local economy processes of globalization and its secular aristocracy. So that's what we're seeing. We're seeing this massive breaking up of the modern globalist world. And that means more and more populations are re-territorializing their political power, taking their political power back, as it were, from the hands of the political elite. So in many ways, this re-territorialization is, I think, the key to understanding so many of the dynamics that are happening today.
Gang, as you know, we look out for each other on this channel. Your safety and your security are our #1 priority. So if you haven't secured the deed to your home as of yet, you need to click on that link below right now and protect yourself and your loved ones. I was absolutely shocked when I found out how easy it is to access the deed to my house, and not just access it, but actually change it. The deed to your home is the only document that proves you own it. But the problem is that all our deeds are now online, and criminals are free to find your deed, forge your signature, refile as the new homeowner, take out tons of loans using your home's equity, and then they stick you with all the debt. But that's where our good friends over at Home Title Lock come in. Gang, they're simply amazing. Home Title Lock gives you the peace of mind that the deed to your home is absolutely and completely protected 24/7. Click on that link below right now. Use promo code TurleyTalks. And all you got to do is enter your address for your no-obligation home title scan to see if you've already been a victim of deed theft. It's a $100 value, absolutely totally free with my promo code TurleyTalks. Gang, don't wait for the worst to happen only to regret you didn't do something about it when you could have. Do what I've done. Do what countless patriots have done. Click on that link below right now and secure your home today.
Now that re-territorialization is leading to a second revolution. And that second revolution is where we're seeing multipolarity replace unipolarity. Multipolarity is replacing unipolarity in terms of the world order. Remember, since the fall of the Soviet Union, we've been living in what's called a unipolar world, a world characterized by a single, what's called pole, a single political power, which then seeks to remake the whole of the world in its own image. And that sole power since the fall of the Soviet Union, of course, has been the United States, with the EU in Brussels and the WEF in Davos as more or less being its affiliates, its satellites, and it's creating, to get those three create together, what's called the liberal international order. What we have to understand now is with this re-territorialization, we're seeing the rise now of what are called civilization states. And these civilization states of China and Russia and India and Turkey, they are awakening what's called now a multipolar world, a world with a number of great political and economic powers. And as a result, more and more DC, Brussels, and Davos are confronting a world where their one-size-fits-all management vision has little relevance. And so they don't really know how to react to that. So that's where I think we're seeing our increasing militantism, even among Republicans. Their rank and file base is re-territorialized, so they don't want their nationalist populist traditions. They don't want to fight global wars, but our ruling elite in D.C. or in Brussels or in Davos, they don't know any other way of hanging on to their centralized globalist unipolar world than through some kind of force. And so that's why I think we're starting to see them speak in such militant terms. The third distinction, or the third revolution that's happening now, is because this new world is being increasingly organized around re-emergent civilization states. It's giving rise to a new kind of geopolitics, and it's what scholars call theopolitics. And this is largely because we're seeing a massive return to ancient religious traditions as part of the wider civilizational multipolar turn. So we're seeing this both in terms of a massive religious renewal around the world, as well as a massive, incredible demographic revolution where conservative religious are in effect outbreeding secular liberals by 40 to 50%. It's absolutely incredible. Remember, secular liberals are not even they're not even procreating at replacement levels of 2.1, well below the 2.1 replacement level. Whereas, conservative religious, particularly conservative Christians in the West, are repopulating well above the 2.1. And so that's why we're seeing our numbers growing and growing and growing. The massive religious renewal, we know 4 in 5 people, according to the World Values Survey, one of the largest databases, sociological databases. I think it's actually the largest sociological database in the world. 4 in 5, 80% of the world's population ascribes allegiance to one of the world's major religions, Sub-Saharan Africa. The Christianity there is growing faster than population growth. And yes, population growth is growing the fastest in Sub-Saharan Africa. So that suggests massive, extraordinary numbers of conversions. More Muslims are attending mosques than ever before. Viktor Orban has dedicated Hungary to the reemergence of Christian civilization. The Law and Justice Party in Poland back in November of 2016, very, very fine month, of course. They had a public ceremony dedicating their nation, their entire nation, on television alike, to Jesus Christ as Lord and King over Poland. China's going through 2 revivals. It's going through its own Christian revival, maybe the largest Christian revival in the history of the church, as well as a Neo-Confucian revival at the top. So even the Politburo would say they're not really communist anymore. They're Confucian. And they see their communism today as a modern form of Confucianism. We're seeing Pentecostals hitting upwards of 1 billion around the world. More Catholics are going to church, particularly in Latin America, than ever before. It's absolutely an astonishing religious renewal. That's how Shinto, imperial Shintoism is at its highest level it's been since World War II. In Japan, there's a Buddhist revival going on. It's going on all over the world, and this is giving rise to what scholars call theopolitics, as opposed to just merely geopolitics, which is a 19th century conception. It was thoroughly secularized. So we've got a movement here from globalism to re-territorialization. We've got unipolar world turning into a multipolar world. We've got geopolitics turning into theopolitics. I'm going to save the last 2 for tomorrow, or whenever we put it up to a deep dive. So it's behind the scenes. So it's not too much information like drinking from a fire hydrant, with plus our 4 videos that we have up today as well. So we will look at the next 2 in our next session. See you guys.